Hey, how's it going? It's Tim and Lance from the Missing Podcast. We are live on a Friday. It is February 28th. It is the last
The
day
last
of
day.
February. Get out of here, February.
I say good
We're,
riddance.
we're done with you.
Good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, February. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're done. We don't want winter anymore. That's one reason. Happy to get out of February.
Yep.
Or that's really the reason, I will say. It's really just a matter of cold air, ice here in the Northeast. We're located in Massachusetts. I don't know where our listeners are listening from, but in Massachusetts, the past couple of weeks has been an icy place
Tundra.
to live. What's that?
A tundra.
It really has. It's absolutely been insane. The
Yep.
amount of ice on people's yards, walkways. You couldn't have shoveled all the ice.
No,
know?
impossible. And of
Yeah.
course, you get that top of the driveway plow truck plows you in, ice little mountain that you have to battle through. That's
Yeah.
if you're not in peak physical condition, you'll probably get a mild heart attack every time you do that. But I will say, Tim, do you have this sensory obsession when the temperature gets super cold and you get the ice? And right now we're in the period where it's still cold, but everything's thawing out. But you get those little ridges of ice
Oh, I
that,
love it.
and then you step
I
on the
know where
edge.
you're going with
Yep,
this.
and it
Yes.
like pops. Oh my god!
It's an amazing sound. It is
Oh,
very sensory. You're right. I'm out there with the dog.
yep.
I'm crushing these, stepping on stomping, really just stomp. I'm like, I must look like a maniac to
Oh,
my
me too.
neighbors.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, it
The
is really fun.
my partner and I will be walking Eric, and I'll leave some for her. I'll be like, "This one's good," and then she'll leave some for me. I like the slow step. I like to jump on it if necessary, but I like the slow press, and you get that
Yeah,
pop, and that
right.
there very few things do that for me.
Yeah.
I want to preface this conversation by saying I'm going to be looking this way a lot
Okay.
because I don't want my computer to jam up by having YouTube on my computer in front of me. So I have my
Okay.
laptop set up over here. So I'm going to be looking at it from time to time. I'm not an air
Okay.
traffic controller, even though we need as many air traffic controllers as possible nowadays.
There's no more left. So same with me today. I'm looking this way. This is my iMac, and this is my laptop. Yeah, it's a
Great.
crazy live show here. I know people have been wanting us to go live more often. I've seen some comments out there, and we really appreciate that. Um, we will be doing this more often, maybe weekly or every other week or something like that. But once we're back up in full swing, we will be attempting to do at least one live show a week, if not more. But if you've been following our journey closely the past, I guess, couple of years, we've already gone through like three eras or four really eras of this of this show just in the past like 2 years. And so now we're on our fourth. The first one was fine, ended poorly. Second one, not good. Third one, not good. Fourth one, here we're uh, we're in a new era where things are looking bright. Actually, I think this is going to be a good era. I'm convinced of that. But we're just coming out of two dark periods where we're really just trying to get our feet back under us.
Yes. Isn't it funny that the word era and error are so close?
Mm, mhm.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Especially if you're a masshole or a
Um,
Kennedy.
and yes, for those who don't know what a masshole is, it's
Mhm.
someone from Massachusetts who is a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a citizen.
Yeah.
It's just at this point, it's just like a citizen of
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Okay. Just blanket statement.
So yes, we are going to get back to a consistent release schedule, and that includes consistent live shows here on YouTube. See some people watching now, so hello there. How you doing? Feel free to make some comments. We're going to be talking a little bit today about, I guess, some of the recent episodes we've aired, but also some news. We did want to talk about the Gene Hackman mysterious death. Of course, his wife and him found dead this week in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Of course, Gene Hackman is a very famous actor. I believe he was a two-time Oscar winner.
Yes.
Yeah, and he
French
was
Connection and Unforgiven.
definitely Unforgiven, right? I'm not sure. Yeah, you might be right with the French Connection. Let me see here. Gene Hackman Oscars. We have the Oscars this Sunday.
Is that the Sunday?
Yeah. So let's see. What did
Yeah, he
he?
did win Academy
He
Award.
won
Oh wait, yeah, best actor.
two. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yep. Wow. Yep. The French Connection. That's a great movie too.
Yeah, that's a great movie. One of the greatest car chase scenes ever filmed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a
Yeah,
great movie, action movie, and directed by the director of The Exorcist.
William Friedkin.
Usually when you're such like a powerhouse of a director in one genre, like you're not necessarily a powerhouse in a different genre. But Friedkin absolutely was.
Yeah, yeah, really, really amazing director. And that car chase scene was never like sanctioned by the city. I think I saw a behind the scenes
Oh,
of the French Connection, and they didn't get permits to go like drive through the city like that. They just shot when they could.
that's crazy.
Insane.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yep. So it's a sad situation that Gene Hackman and his wife were found. His wife Betsy
Arakawa. Mhm.
Arakawa. Yep. So no external trauma to either individual, says the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office yesterday. Their dog was also found deceased, unfortunately.
But they had two
Very
other
sadly.
dogs that had been around the property that were alive. So
Right.
that tells me something is like exclusive to the house. And the first thing that you texted back to me when we were talking about Gene Hackman, and it's obvious, you were like, well, that's a gas leak or some sort of like, carbon
Carbon
leak.
monoxide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where everyone's heads went, but continue with
Yep.
the details because it gets even more. I don't want to make something more strange of it than it should be, but it's strange. These are the details we have.
Yeah, where the sheriff's office is saying it remains an open investigation, but they're also saying that foul play is not suspected. Here's a quote here. The circumstances surrounding the death of the two deceased individuals are considered to be suspicious enough in nature to require a thorough search and investigation. But there was no obvious sign of foul play or indication of foul play. So no signs of forced entry, no bruising. Yeah, it's a very confusing scene.
Not even a sign of murder suicide. And I don't know like what their emotional state was or mental state was, but that's just one of the possibilities that a couple maybe he had something terminal and it was like a mutually decided murder suicide or but that doesn't seem to be the case either.
Yeah, so again, it says scattered pills were found near the body of Arakawa, who was lying on the ground inside a bathroom with an open bottle of prescription pills on a countertop nearby. A space heater was found near her head, and a dog was found dead in the bathroom closet.
Yeah.
And then Hackman's body was discovered on the ground in another room near the kitchen. And they suspected that the male had suddenly fallen. I mean, he's 95. Um, yeah, strange scene. It really makes you wonder what the heck happened in those last moments of their lives.
I know. Really want to know as this develops because if there wasn't a dog involved, it would seem like maybe he fell and she couldn't handle the grief and she overdosed on prescription medication. But it also says pills were scattered. Like, if she overdosed on the pills, why are the pills like not in her body? You know what I mean? Like, why are the pills scattered? And I don't know how many
Yes,
pills were in the bottle, but if you're going to overdose, wouldn't you take as many pills as possible? And
yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
and
it doesn't really seem like suicide either.
no, and doesn't
But
it seem weird that she would die in the bathroom? If it's a murder suicide or he died accidentally and she wanted to take her life, I would think that she would go to like the couch or a bed and take the pills and lay down. Or if they
Mhm.
wanted to do it together, they would be together in bed. If that was, this romanticized idea of I'm dying anyway and we're going to go together, it's not like they took the pills and then he went out to the mud room or whatever that room was and passed out and she passed out in the bathroom.
Right.
And then the dog.
Also,
And then you throw the dog into it. Like
so
how
there's
is
been
that?
some clarity apparently from the police on the affidavit. The affidavit said that the dog was found in the bathroom closet, which was kind of weird to me. But apparently the dog was in a crate. So that was corrected. And then there were two other healthy dogs found on the property. So yeah, I guess they had been living in Santa Fe for more than a decade since Hackman retired from acting about 20 years ago. And
Oh
they
wait,
loved Santa Fe. Yeah,
yeah. So the dog was not in a closet, it was in a crate.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just read that too, that they corrected it. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got some comments here. Here's Ross. Ross is excited about consistent live shows,
Us
and
too.
in honor of Mr. Hackman, he watched Loose Cannons that was filmed in 1988. I don't know if I've seen
There's
that
a
one.
there's a B-side.
And Tim agrees that Superman 2 is the best incarnation of the Superman series.
100% agree with you. He's the best
Now
Lex Luthor, right?
that's the one with the whales, right? Where they're trying to. No, I'm just kidding. That's a Star Trek reference.
Okay. I'm like, I don't know if I remember Superman 2 that well.
About the whales, the search for Spock. The dog in the house. This is from Qualzy. The dog in the house was in a crate and unable to survive. Yeah, the dogs that survived were outside and must have had supplies. That is true. Yes.
Okay.
Santa Fe, New Mexico. Two other dogs outside. Yeah, wacky details about the pills. No word on what those pills are at this point. Star Trek was also
Nice.
for. Good to see you, Jason. Thank you for the comment there. Is that
Is
Jason?
that D Jason?
I
It
think it
is.
is. Yes. Yep. How you doing, Jason? Nice to see you
Living
too.
living the dream. Jason.
Yeah. We should catch up soon.
We should catch up soon. Have a virtual
Yeah.
coffee or beer.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
so is
yeah.
Gene Hackman the best Lex Luthor? Can I throw that out to the listening audience and to you?
Yeah, feel free to throw it out. Gosh, I mean, I guess he is, right? I mean, I don't. I mean, he
Who are
was
we
a really
comparing?
good actor, right? Two-time Oscar winner.
Yeah,
And then who are we saying? Who else played him? So
Jesse
Jesse
Eisenberg.
Eisenberg, Nicholas Holt,
Oh yeah.
Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville, John Cryer in Supergirl, Kevin Spacey, notably not the best. Yeah, so I mean, he's definitely the best, like Lex Luthor. I mean, he was a good actor, you know.
Yeah.
He was.
Okay. Well, I'll just ask you. I said I was going to ask you what your favorite Gene Hackman role was or is.
Oh man,
97
well,
cents is why. What is this? Why am I here? I don't know, but hang out. Hang out.
why is this? Why am I here? I don't know. We're doing a live show here today, 97 cents, and we're talking right now about the unfortunate death of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy. Trying to make sense of that, but really, we're here to just to discuss a little bit and kind of mix it up.
Okay.
Wrong? What are we wrong
I
about?
don't know.
97
This is hilarious so far, though.
So yeah, I guess the best movie is Unforgiven. That I would say that I think that's at least my favorite movie that I know Hackman from. He has been great in other movies. Royal Tenenbaums, he was hilarious in the Royal Tenenbaums. Let's
Mhm.
see, Bonnie and Clyde, French Connection, we mentioned Poseidon Adventure. I thought he was awesome
Ooh,
in the Poseidon Adventure.
yeah, that's a great
Really love that
disaster
movie
movie.
too.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
really wild movie.
I guess
I don't know if you-
97 cents was quoting. It's a quote from Lex Luthor in Superman Returns.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
I'm really not too
I
familiar with
wouldn't
those
know to quote it
movies.
that well.
Yeah.
But well played. Well played.
Yes. The end of the Poseidon Adventure. I don't know if you remember this
Yeah.
when he's hanging onto the pipe
Upside
and
down.
what And he like, well, the ship is upside down, yeah.
Yep.
And he's hanging from the pipe that's on the bottom of the ship, but he ends up letting go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I got to
Great
rewatch that
scene.
movie, but that one leaves an impression.
Great scene, yeah.
Uh,
I even love the remake of the Poseidon Adventure that was called Poseidon, because it reminded me of like a slasher movie in the way
huh.
that, like, you know, all these characters are gonna die, but it's
Yeah.
just one by one. You have to kind of wait it out, and you know, it's fun to guess who's going next.
Right. It's like a Final Destination of disaster movies.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, Young Frankenstein.
That was so three roles. Three roles are tied for my favorite with him, and it's Unforgiven, French Connection, and the short cameo style role that he played in Young Frankenstein. Which, without that role, I don't know if Young Frankenstein is what it is. Then that's not hyperbole.
Right. Very funny scene. So plays a blind man who Frankenstein kind of wanders into his cabin, and I believe Gene Hackman's character makes him some
Makes him
coffee,
soup.
oh soup, right, and burns him with it accidentally.
And then lights his thumb on fire because he wants to have a cigar with him after dinner, and he thinks his thumb is the cigar. And then,
Right.
what's his line? He leaves. So the monster leaves, and Gene Hackman says, like
I was
something
going
like,
to make espresso.
"I was going to make espresso."
Also great in Bonnie and Clyde, says Ross.
Yep.
97 cents. I don't know if they're joking. Says you may like Gene. Lots of people do, but I think the guy was a hack man. So I guess 97 cents is joke. You know, I did want to mention one movie because one role that he played in his later career, he did kind of mail in some performances. I have to say,
Most, yeah,
notably, yeah,
yeah.
notably Behind Enemy Lines. I want to say that one. Like I thought he was really just kind of bad in that one. Um, but you know, we're not here to drag the dead. But Hoosiers,
Oh,
Hoosiers, classic.
classic. And he would have really been like the standout in it had Dennis Hopper not been in it. Dennis Hopper really carries that movie. Um,
Yeah, he's great in that
as
too.
good as a supporting actor could. Like that is such a
Yeah,
great performance. I think Dennis Hopper or was at least nominated for that.
yeah, he was at least nominated. Yeah, he was the town drunk, and the father of one of the basketball players. Um, and and yeah, I recall the scene often when Hackman brings the measuring tape out
Yep.
when the team makes it to the championship game, the state championship game, and he's got the measuring tape, and he's like, how far is that the free throw line? He's like, how tall is the basket hoop? And they're like 10 feet. He's like, okay, so you're telling me it's the exact same measurements as our
Yeah.
court back home. It's such a great he just walks them into that lesson. It's great.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Oh,
Yeah.
also Mississippi
Yeah.
Burning.
Yeah. I don't know if
Um,
I've seen that one.
oh my God, amazing movie. Him and Willem Dafoe. Uh,
Right.
and the converse. Just two more I want to bring up: The Conversation and The Quick and the Dead. The Quick and the Dead does not get enough respect as a quality western.
That's a good point too. That's a good movie. He's the villain in that, right?
Yep, yep, and he has a
Yep.
great death scene. And The Conversation, not early, 1974, so right around the time of The Godfather 2. That's Coppola's movie in between The Godfathers.
Mm.
What a great like psychological thriller.
And The Firm.
Eh, yeah, not a fan.
I liked it.
A
It was
little
good.
dry for me.
Yeah, but it's Unforgiven. So he plays Little Bill. He's a corrupt
Yep.
sheriff in a compromised frontier town. Yeah, this was such an amazing movie. If you haven't seen Unforgiven, it's a Clint Eastwood joint, and it is an incredible movie.
Mhm.
He's Gene Hackman's kind of the bad guy in that as well. Um, but there are multiple villains, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a classic like melting pot of westerns. There had been a
Right.
period of time where westerns weren't like the genre, and then Eastwood makes Unforgiven, and westerns become a genre again that people can go to the theater and see, because it was like the
Yeah,
spaghetti westerns and
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing
Blazing Saddles ruined westerns for like 20 years.
ruined the genre, but in a funny way,
Yeah,
like it wasn't. But you're right, like Blazing
but
Saddles
no one made them.
killed that genre exactly.
Yeah,
But Unforgiven definitely brought it back into the mainstream, and there's no question about it. It's just a phenomenal movie. He was also in Heist. Did you see Heist with Danny
yes,
DeVito, David Mamet?
yes. This is like the '80s movie.
No, Heist was maybe 80s, mid 90s, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Thief, and that's James Caan. That's not
Oh,
that's
that's a
not
very
Gene
Michael
Hackman
Mann.
at all. So no, I don't know if I know Heist.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
give
good
it a
movies
watch.
for
Give it a watch. Great movie. I think it's
sure.
written and directed by David Mamet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Get
Rebecca
Shorty.
Fenton's in it.
That was a good one.
We're just. I didn't realize I was gonna like so many Gene Hackman movies
I know, right? Well, I
I'm
guess that's
scrolling
pretty much
through.
it, though. Yeah, he was a heck of an actor. Royal Tenenbaums, you a fan of that movie?
I am.
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
good one. That's
Yep.
probably the most the most widely recognized Wes Anderson movie, like that everyone kind of admits they like, you know?
Yeah. I think it takes a certain kind of actor to be in one of his movies and make it believable. You know what I mean? Because you have to go into it knowing that it's going to be a certain way, and I think you have to
Mm,
just kind of roll with it and not question certain decisions. I feel like that's the way it is with his movies, where you just say like, "Well, I've seen the finished product on screen, so I'm going to put my trust in the whole process here." And I think that says a
right.
lot for people who can make that effective, performance in a Wes Anderson movie, and that's credit to Gene Hackman.
Yeah. Yeah, he was hilarious in that movie.
Oh, Jason
Um,
Watts is here.
if you smell what the Watts is cooking, does that mean you're actually cooking breakfast right now it's 9 a.m. where you are, Jason. So I'm
Hash
taking it
browns?
that I'm taking it as you're cooking breakfast as you're watching and listening.
Yeah, or he's wrestling.
Quality says I haven't seen most of them, a few, but less than half. Yeah, I'm probably around half of this list too. He certainly did a lot of dramas. No Way Out as well with Costner. Um, yeah, I don't know, but
Yeah,
Unforgiven was my favorite, definitely.
Unforgiven, yeah. I'll do that. Unforgiven was my favorite as well. Takes a certain type of talent again to pull off a bad guy as bad as Little Bill, but you still felt bad for him.
Yeah, he was bad with a smile on his face. It was
Yeah,
a really interesting role. He was a supporting character in it, so he's really only in like probably like 3 or 4 scenes.
yeah.
Um,
Great dying lines. His dying lines are so great. Last line.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, that's
building a
that's a hell
house,
of a movie.
right?
That's right. Oh my god, that's right.
Yeah. That
Because
was his
he
last
was
line.
building a house.
I'm building a
Yeah,
house.
don't kill me. I'm building a
Yeah.
house.
Unbelievable.
Bartering, yeah, negotiating.
Yep. Uh,
Well, R.I.P. Gene Hackman. All right, Lance. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about some of our latest episodes, but we've got a new interview coming today with a really fun author named Erica Engelhaupt, who
yes.
we spoke with her. I want to say maybe a couple of years ago. She wrote a really fun book um, called Gory Details that was a lot about science and yeah, it was kind of a wild book and it was a really fun interview. Definitely talked a lot about science. I remember talking about flies and yeah, what do you remember about that book and that interview?
Yeah, so I remember that we talked about like the subtitle of the book is The Dark Side of Adventures from the Dark Side of Science, and it's all about how certain remedies came to be, but where the origin of them is typically isn't where we think it is, and usually it's something that's more dark and disturbing, but in a in a fun way, in a non-harmful way. So I do
Mhm.
remember laughing a lot during this interview. I
Yeah.
remember laughing a lot and shaking my head when I was reading the book. But yeah, it's gross and strange and morbid, but all with a sense of humor. So I can't wait to speak with her. We're speaking with her today. We're
Yes,
gonna
and
hop
she's
off
got a
this and
new
hop
book.
on with her.
That's right. Yeah, she's got a new book. It's called Go to Hell. And it's
Always
really
nailing
good.
it for the titles.
Yeah, it's a great title. And it's about places on earth that people will say is either like a gateway or a portal to hell, or there's some affiliation with hell. And it's kind of it's a cool book. I'm listening to it. I listened to it, I should say. It's great. I want to know how much traveling she did for it because she goes all around the world with each chapter is in like a different country. Very interesting, but really cool stuff. And you know what? Humans are goddamn. They're obsessed with hell. I will say that because every area's got some portal to hell that Erica explores. And spoiler alert, none of them are actual portals to hell that we know of.
That we know of. Although right in front of me, beyond this camera here, is the chimney,
Yes,
and there's a weird box like a panel door that I've always wanted to open. So maybe
it
when we're
probably goes to hell.
when we're talking to her today, maybe I'll get up the courage to open it and have her bear witness to the vision of hell that I'll inevitably see.
Yeah, so that's an interview that will be coming out on Crawl Space in the next few weeks. So make sure to check out our other show, Crawl Space, as well. If you're strictly a missing listener, check out Crawl Space because we do some great interviews over there as well. And Ross mentions that the Loon Mountain 3 will go to hell.
Okay.
He's harkening back to the Maura Murray case, which is obviously a case that we started podcasting with, and we dug really deep into that case. Ross says, "R.I.P. Butch Atwood." Butch Atwood was one of the neighbors. Yes, he has passed. Is Fred Murray still with us? Ross asked. I believe so. Yes, I believe we would have heard if not. I'm pretty sure he is. And yes, he was at the vigil in just earlier this month, the 21-year vigil. And Ross says he enjoyed the cyber lady from the Bush administration circa 2006 to 2008.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Ross. Yeah, that was Teresa Payton. Really cool guest. Yeah, she worked on cybersecurity and was the first female chief information officer for the White House during the George W. Bush administration. And yeah, it was a really cool guest. Really awesome to speak with her. She had some great tips about cyber sleuthing and how people can get involved, and sometimes how people get too involved.
Yeah, and how to protect yourself and make sure that you don't become one of the many people that unintentionally or unwittingly falls victim to some of these hacks and scams that are out there in the cyber sphere. But at this point, it's almost impossible to not have that happen. I mean, all of our information's out there in some form. But thank you, Ross, for saying I loved your episode hiking to that UMass cabin.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Long
back in the
time
day
ago. My
where
gosh.
we would get in the car and grab stuff to record and hang out with John Smith and go walk into the woods for a while and go into a cabin where there were people. And John Smith stuck his head in
That
after
was
sort of
crazy.
scaling up the side of the cabin.
Yeah, he climbed up the stilts
The
and looked in the
stilts, yeah.
window and and was like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah, popped his head in. You have like Grizzly Adams popping his head in the two dudes were just sitting there like chilling out. They were like the groundskeepers and like the caretakers, and he just like popped his head in the window that no one should have been popping their head in the window. Like there's a door. Knock on the door.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, those guys couldn't have been nicer too. They actually invited us in and let us look around and talked with us a little bit. I mean, that's true, Ross. John Smith was armed,
But not
but
in a
certainly
position to
wasn't
grab his weapon if they had grabbed their weapon.
right, and certainly not not armed in a threatening way.
No.
I guess you know you could always be armed in a threatening way, but certainly this never got tense in any way, shape, or form. Um, Ross asks, was that the same trip with the calls to the hotel and the penny from 1982? No, that was a different trip. That was the UMass cabin was probably a year later or something like that. Yeah, yeah, I know those days. Wow, that was so long ago. This is like 8 years ago or something now.
I know. But we went through like
And
a 3-year period where we weren't traveling anywhere. So we did the Saratoga, the Sheila
yep,
Shepherd trip. We did Erica Franelich in upstate New York, and then no one did anything from 2020 to 2022, 2023-ish. And
yeah,
and then it was a tumultuous time here at Crawl Space Media, and maybe there'll be more trips in the future. I'd like to think
that would be
so.
great.
Yep. Maybe there'll
Yeah,
be more
I would
trips
like.
with Watts, and we can actually smell what he's cooking in person during one of his searches.
That would be amazing. Yeah, now that Spotify has video on their podcast, honestly, it makes it like more of a thing we should do. Getting back out there with video cameras. Strangely enough, when we started this podcast in 2015, it was actually a video podcast. Like the very first thing we uploaded on this podcast feed was a teaser trailer to our documentary about the Maura Murray, the web sleuths who are invested in the Maura Murray case. And then every podcast was just audio, and then it's come all the way back around, Lance, about 10 years later, to where video podcasting is now a thing.
Hmm.
And so actually our podcast Missing and Crawl Space, they are now video podcasts on Spotify. So everyone watching live right now, they're already on YouTube, so they know it's video. So probably nothing new to you guys, but for folks who are listening elsewhere, you can now watch it on Spotify, and I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. Cool
I
to
think
see.
it's super cool. And one of the features that is, I mean, I don't want to overspeak this, but kind of revolutionary. If you enjoy watching the video element of these shows and you've been watching on YouTube, it stops when your phone times out and goes dark. The Spotify ones will keep going.
Right.
It sounds so simple, but they do it. It's revolutionary.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny to think like that's the only difference between
Right.
what YouTube has done for years and what Spotify is doing now. And now the industry is like, oh my God, Spotify is doing video. But yeah, it does make it really like a seamless transition if you're listening on your phone. You want to watch a couple things. Maybe there's a video map, or there's an interview, or you want to see what someone looks like. And then you can switch it back to audio, or you can just put your phone on, press the little button to go back to go dark, and it still plays.
Yep. Yep.
So
And
a lot of fun.
I remember back when I was listening to music on Spotify several years ago, and they started that thing where they would just show like a 3-second clip of the artist. And it was like from a live show or something, and it was just on a loop. And I remember thinking, like, that's a test for something. That's not, there's going to be more here because it's not arbitrary. So I'd
Right.
like to think that they had this in the works for a while. So, round of applause for Spotify.
Yeah, they're really doing it right. And Ross here asks, or he mentions the interview about the A-frame house with the couple who came to and actually that's one that we should definitely make video sooner rather than later, because I think we filmed that whole thing, that whole interview, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure. But
right, right.
anyway,
When they came to Worcester.
yeah, they came to
Yeah.
the old Crawl Space Studios in Worcester, Mass. And that was Sarah and Mike, and yeah, they owned the A-frame house years ago. Not when not when Maura disappeared, but they had some really spooky stories about that place.
Yeah, from their daughter.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, it is a spooky dwelling. Apparently, it's been renovated. Actually, there's been at least two other owners since then. And we were buds with the first owner since them. They were really cool people. Christina and
Joel.
gosh, Joel. That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
great people as well. And Then there was a new owner that I think might be the current owner. I remember messaging with one of them, and they said that it had been torn down to the stilts as far as like a renovation on the house, but that wasn't actually true. The person said that to me and then blocked me, and it wasn't true. We could, which was
Wow.
weird because I was certainly wasn't being. Well, I don't know. I guess they just didn't want that kind of attention. I understand. People drive by. It's sort of a dark tourism area, but also that house just in particular certainly has a reputation. Um, and then yeah, apparently blood found in the closet, right? Like
Yeah.
but any police officer or forensic analyst that you speak to about that, it's like they'll be like, well, there's blood found everywhere. There's blood in the room you're sitting in right now.
Yeah, do a
You know,
do a luminol test in your own home, and you'll be shocked at what you
right?
find.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I don't know. I do know that the New Hampshire State Police told us that the searches that we did in regards to that closet and in regards to the property and what may or may not have been buried on the property, the New Hampshire State Police told us that there was no evidentiary value to the search we did. So basically saying Mora is not there. There's no signs that Mora has ever been here
right.
at
And
the A-frame.
I'm gonna pop that up there. I wonder if they could ever pull anything from that closet. That's what we did when we were there. We had a crew in there that had the ground penetrating radar, but they also had jackhammers, and we did luminol, and we we pulled up sections of the concrete floor, and we labeled it like 1 to 3 inches, 3 inches to 5 inches, I think
Right.
5 to 7. I think we went all the way down to like maybe 12, like 9 to 12 inches,
Mhm.
and bagged those separately. And that's what we gave to the state police, and also sections of the wall too that we gave to the
Right.
state police. And that's the response, right? Was there was nothing of evidentiary value to those samples, but that's where everything was supposedly like, luminol. The luminol was showing in those areas. So uh, things were pulled up, and it came back as not anything of evidentiary value. But thank you for putting that comment in there. And no, hard no on this
I think I would give it a shot. I would give it a shot. I think it'd be
one.
fun. But
I
I
think
don't
it.
think Mora made her way to that house. I have to say.
Well, it'd be such a random
Yeah,
place to stop given the other options along the way. I mean,
yeah. Because if I don't know if who's been to that area or not. And I'm not saying you should go there necessarily because I know that I think they've even cracked down on people visiting more than what they had the last time we had visited. But Um, it's a winding road. Her car was on the side of this winding road, but then like you have to like back up like half a mile and then take a left and then and then I think bear right and then you'd find the A-frame house. So it's like it's really not it's not a natural area that she could have walked to, or I mean she could have walked or ran there, but I just don't think you would have ran backwards. Like she would have gone backwards from the way she was driving.
yeah, she would have been backtracking, and she would have. I mean, again, there are many other spots where she could have stopped to make a phone call at someone's house. Even the store there, the gas station, she
Mhm.
could have popped in. Um,
Right.
there was Old Peters Road that was right there. If she wanted to run down a road to hide, that
Yes.
probably would have been a better option. That old house that we had toured, and there's video of that as
Yeah.
well. The old dilapidated house on St. Peter's Road, but yeah, can't believe we're talking about this right
Yeah,
now
Ross
again.
brings it out in us.
I know, Ross. God, come on.
And yeah, Ross mentions that he had no idea so many weirdos lived in New Hampshire.
My entire family lives in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's weirdos everywhere, but certainly in that area of the White Mountains, and this is something that we've been told for years. Like people who move from other areas to that area, like they do so to kind of get away from it. They want a more rural and relaxing area. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've heard. People want to kind of, they're not necessarily all running from something, but they just want something calmer, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
And beautiful. It is a beautiful area.
yeah. The person who joined us on our hike, the guide that we have, he's not running from anything, but he built like a little cabin. Well, actually, it's like a medium-sized cabin. He built a cabin. He bought some property, a small amount of property, and built a cabin on the property. So he just had somewhere to go to get out of the city, and him and his fiance go up there like God, like dozens of times a year. They'll do renovations on their cabin, and they just like going up there and knowing that there's nothing around unless they want to go out. Like they just like being in the seclusion of the whole area. So yeah, again, like you said, you don't have to be running from something, but you do want to. There is some part of you that wants the isolation. Some people enjoy the idea of being isolated.
Right. 97 cents says, so you're saying there's a bunch of perverts out there. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah.
Look up your local sex offender list. I mean, you don't need us to tell you that.
Yeah, but there's a fine.
And furthermore, we did not say that.
Yeah, and we're not
You
pervert
did.
shaming. There's a fine line here. Not a fine line. There's a distinct line of you can be one without being a sex offender.
Right.
So I'm defending perverts.
You're saying perverts can be. It's okay to be a pervert but not a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm saying that there's a line between like you can have perversions,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily cross a line into sex offending.
Right.
Wow, this is. Are we going down this road today?
Let's not. Let's pull back from that.
Yeah, let's pull back on this. 97 cents brought it up. So.
Yeah. Well, I do want to mention our latest episode on missing was about the Bennington Triangle, which is in Vermont, and specifically the disappearance of Mitty Rivers, who was a 74-year-old man who went missing from Bickford Hollow, Vermont on November 12th, 1945. And we were joined by Worcester State University Archives librarian Ross Griffiths. I don't think it's the same Ross who is messaging us, but that would be funny if it
would be hilarious.
Yeah, because the Ross that we've spoken with has not mentioned Maura Murray, but this Ross is certainly well versed in that case. So yeah, Ross Griffiths is a great great guest, and he brought us this case and has really started us on the path of the Bennington Triangle. And it started a few months ago with the disappearance of Etta Reel, who went missing from Worcester, Massachusetts about 90 years ago. And Ross joined us on the Missing podcast back in September, I believe it was, for that episode. So make sure to scroll back for that one. That is a great episode. Really mysterious case. Actually, probably not as mysterious as it sounded in our initial run through, because we actually heard from Etta's family, which was pretty wild. And it sort of confirmed some of the things that we had talked about in that episode. So definitely check that episode out. But this time we speak with him about the Bennington Triangle and the disappearance of Mitty Rivers. There are other cases that he is going to join us to speak about. Paula Weldon is the next one. And Ross says that is I guess, the most mysterious disappearance from the triangle. And yeah, that is the one that we're going to be handling next. But there's a few others as well. And I also would love to interview this guy, Joseph Citro, who coined the term Bennington Triangle. We've had some communication on Facebook. I have not gotten a reply to email yet from the email that I sent to him yet, but we'll try to get him on as soon as we can as well to sort of discuss this. But basically back in the 40s, there were, I think it was 4 or 5 disappearances at least.
Yeah.
But it is a certain amount that are grouped together to sort of be called the Bennington Triangle. And it's a very small area. and it's several disappearances in a small period of time. I want to say 4 or 5 years. So that's what we're digging into. But even back in that time period, there were articles written about these disappearances and like how they could be grouped together. There was one article that we touched on briefly in this episode about Mitty Rivers, that mentioned a possible lost horizon
Love
somewhere on
that.
Glastonbury Mountain. Um, which makes you wonder what that even means. A lost horizon, that means like it's like a portal to some other region or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love the Lost Horizon because it makes you think like right in that space between the sun setting and the right on the Earth line and the sun setting. There's this thing that happens right there that you can like slip into another dimension, which I think is really cool. But I love the fact that we're taking Missing and we're taking one of the best guests we've had because he really delivered with the Etta Real story, a classic, perfect Missing episode. It was so well researched, so well articulated, and he did the same thing with Mitty Rivers. And this Bennington Triangle is almost the forgotten triangle of this whole, you know,
Of
paranormal
the
scene
triangles.
of the triangles. Yeah. And it made me think about other triangles that I'd like to do as well, which there are ones out there that are just as lesser known. So maybe Ross can join us on researching those as well. But he's just perfect to do this little mini series with. And I can't wait to have a conversation with him about all of the other ones. I just want to pop in a little link here. Our buddy did some special music for this episode as
Oh
well.
yeah.
So
Yep.
our buddy Jonathan Santorelli did some special music for this. So there's his Instagram. Did I just do that correctly? Is that a link to Instagram right there?
That should
Yeah.
go to it. Yeah.
So there's his Instagram. Really talented musician, really talented artist overall. He does a lot of video work as well, and we've known him for
Like, geez,
holy
a lot of
crap.
years. 15 years, 20 years.
I think going on 22 years, 23 years.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's
Yeah.
his YouTube as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so just a quick plug for him, but I am digging the fact that we are taking this story and we're making a little sub series on Missing. We've done that with Crawl Space, we've done that with Missing as well, but this comes without the emotional attachment of it being a recent story. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's far enough removed where if any family member reaches out, they're reaching out because they're grateful that the story is being spoken about again. And
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that Ross will approach it with like, yes, there's a paranormal element to it because people have been talking about it in the paranormal way, but we bring it back to like it's a human being and there's probably an explanation here.
Right. Ross asks thoughts on David Politis. And this is a little bit of a rabbit hole. So David Politis is the Missing 411 guy. He's made documentaries. He's written books. He's done a lot of appearances on Coast to Coast AM, which is a phenomenal old radio show that's been running for years. I actually heard there's a biopic that's coming about Art Bell. I forget who's playing him, but someone famous.
Oh, cool.
It might be Matt Damon or someone like that. But anyway, after Art Bell hosted it, George Norrie hosted the show, and now they have some other guests as well, or other guest hosts, I should say, as well. But I will say that the first time I ever heard David Politis on Coast to Coast, I was blown away. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was one of the best interviews I've ever heard. It was like, what? This guy's a former police officer, and he's talking about these disappearances. And what? If you wear red in the woods, you're gonna disappear. You're gonna fall into a lost horizon. And it's like, is he talking about Bigfoot? And then if you mention Bigfoot to him, he's like, no, I am not talking about Bigfoot.
Never said
You
Bigfoot.
said Bigfoot.
You said it. But I'm gonna repeat the word Bigfoot.
But then if you dig a little deeper, he actually is like the head of some kind of like I forget what it's called, but some kind of North American Bigfoot Searchers Association or something like that. Um, so I think David Politis is interesting to listen to on those old Coast to Coast episodes. I've even watched Missing 411 or two, but I don't real. I actually think he's doing. He's not doing the greatest work at this point. I'm going to say, I think he does what he does. I think is slightly dishonest. Um, I, and I feel kind of bad because I don't love to take shots at other people, but look, I think he's creating. Giamatti is playing Art Bell. Very
Oh
cool. Thank you,
wow,
Scout Finch.
wow, that's cool.
That's going to be good. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Like Bigfoot probably shouldn't have anything to do with any real disappearance cases. You know.
No, 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 absolutely not. And hey, David Politis, if he's listening or if he's watching, if he's actually Ross in disguise, would be amazing. But or if anyone knows him, like I would love to have him on Crawl Space or Missing. Probably Missing would be better because he's talking about missing people, and we can ask him, like, really, do you believe this? Do you really
It'd be
believe
a
it?
hell of a debate. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're so right. Like there are human beings who went missing, children who went missing, families who had their child like there one minute, gone the next, and now someone is saying, "Hey, I didn't say Bigfoot. You said that this might have been Bigfoot. I didn't
Yeah.
say it, but I'm definitely not putting it in your head. It's sort of a disservice to the cause.
Yeah. I don't know. I appreciate some of it, but yeah, I think when he connects a missing person to Bigfoot, I think that can be very problematic.
Yes.
And again, I know that he doesn't say it. I know, but he is pushing people to believe that, regardless of if he says it or not. Like we know the game of trying to push people into believing something. Like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I guess you're saying something without saying it. I mean, as a broadcaster, you know it when you see it. It's hard to describe, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah. It's like if you went into a store and I waited outside and you came outside and you had a product and I said, I thought you told me you didn't have any money. And you said, no, no, no. By saying I didn't have any money, I just meant like I didn't have a lot of cash on me, but I had enough to buy this thing. And then we talk about it on air. And I say, that's weird that you went into the store after telling me you didn't have any money. And someone in the comments says, did he shoplift it? And I'll be like, I didn't say shoplift. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's like, well,
Well, maybe he
when was the
did.
last? How many times have you
Yeah.
seen Tim go into a store and come out with a product? Many
Yeah.
times, but don't say that Tim's a shoplifter though.
Right. And this is a good point Ross makes. The
Yeah,
national parks refusing to release information doesn't help. Um, so I agree. I agree. And it makes it look shady. But I don't think it's actually shady. I mean, Politis, trust me, these interviews with him from so many years ago are in my head. He famously says like, oh well, there's like two people who work at a national park investigating these disappearances. Like, what do you think they're actually going to find anything with just two people assigned? Like, well, no,
no, yeah,
but like there are people assigned, right? Like, so I don't know. Saying that there are only two people assigned to a missing persons case, you're implying there should be more. I get that. There are a lot of people that get lost in national parks, but I just think a lot of it's natural, right? Like
yeah,
na-
like
national parks can be dangerous.
exactly. These are called national parks. These are huge. These are
Yeah.
huge areas of land that have a lot of opportunities for someone to disappear in. Do you ever remember seeing like one of the Great Lakes? Did you ever like Lake Ontario? You ever go to
Yeah.
Toronto and see Lake Ontario? And then when you saw
In
it, you were like,
Chicago.
"Oh my god, it is so much
It's
bigger. I can't
enormous.
see the other
Yeah.
side. It's so
Yeah.
much bigger." Like
Yeah.
if you were to take a little boat into Lake Ontario and never to be seen again, the odds are that like something happened out there and you've drowned. It's just
Yeah.
so enormous that you're probably never going to be found. And I think people don't really understand, and I don't even until I see it, understand the scope. Even when you look at a map and you look at the national park, the scope of that and the terrain and the ways that someone can just wander off trail and their foot falls through some sort of like overgrowth that that was just a natural occurrence in the forest, and their leg gets stuck. You know, like there's so many ways that someone can go off the trail and never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Unless you're
I
Trenny
mean,
Gibson, and that's
yeah,
shady AF.
right, right. I will say if Bigfoot does exist, like maybe he has, killed a human or several.
Or
I don't. Right, or she. Notably, the Patterson Gimlin film is a female. Um, so yeah, I mean, if they're real, they probably killed humans, whether it's intentional or accidental. I don't know, and maybe that accounts for a disappearance or maybe more than one. I really don't know, but I don't think it's fair to say like here's one example: Dennis Martin, right? Dennis Lloyd Martin.
Mhm.
If you want to hear us sound off on Politis more than what we're doing right now, we do it in episode 385 called Dennis Lloyd Martin. And I think what Politis did in this case was a real disservice. This is a little boy who went missing, and it's super mysterious. Like he's never been found. It is a very mysterious case, um, but I don't think Bigfoot got him. Uh, so
I thought you were about to go off.
um, no, no, no. I'm saying that we sound off on him in episode 385.
Yeah, yeah. I thought you were about.
That's the one.
It felt like you were ramping up to go off. Maybe you
I
diffused.
honestly don't remember all the details of what was so egregious about what he said about that case, but I do think he did connect. He tried to connect sort of Dennis Martin's disappearance and Bigfoot or something like that. And I mean, and for the record, like I think if you're connecting a serial killer to a missing persons case, like you better have some good reason to do that, because otherwise, I'm going to say that's the same thing, slightly dishonest.
Yeah, it's a. I love saying this, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. And I want to credit John Anderson for bringing this term to our attention. But you are constantly proving the negative, and the negative is, "Well, I think this
Yeah,
person was responsible for this, or I think Bigfoot was responsible for that." And it's like, now I got to go ahead and prove something that you just conjured out of thin air. I have to
right.
go. I have to disprove this now, and that takes away from an actual investigation. And I just want to. We did see the comment here about from Real. Could you guys summarize what you think actually happened to Maura Murray? I'm sure you've done this before, but I've been out of the space for a few years. Well, welcome back. And people are commenting saying it's too complex to be summarized. But I mean, if to summarize what I think the car, the single car accident happened. She got out, and I think she was taken by somebody, and we won't know what happened to her unless somebody comes forward and confesses and literally draws a map to where any remains or proof lay.
Right. Yeah. So if she got into a car, then it's up to that. We don't know. We don't know whatever could have happened. That driver could have harmed her. Could have let her out somewhere. That's the one that I don't see as too realistic. I don't think Moore is with us any longer. I think if she got into a car, it was willingly, and it was probably with someone who did something bad to her. That's my take on that. But yeah, I agree with what you said. Like, you know, we're not going to know. Like, how are we going to know who that is unless they come forward, or unless there's more talking about it. I do know that it's hard to keep secrets, especially like a major secret, like a murder or something like that. And in small towns, people talk, and that was really one of the reasons we did Missing Maura Murray, was because um, the more that you talk about it, the more sometimes other people talk, and sometimes the truth comes to the surface. I don't know that it ever did in Mora's case. I don't know that our shaking of the apple tree actually worked. I do think it helped for the most part, but I don't have a great answer, unfortunately.
I don't either. Yeah, that's pretty much the same, right? I mean, we do. We've spoken with Julie and with Kurt and other family members as much as we could, and we fully support their mission now. And they've embraced being advocates for other people who have missing family members or are trying to get a cold case, whether it's a missing person or a homicide, trying to get answers from the state of New Hampshire. So they formed a coalition and they
Yeah.
are speaking for people who can't speak for themselves. So I really love the fact that they've taken this tragic event and turned it into something positive, much like Bruce Maitland and the nonprofit that we're a part of, Private Investigations for the Missing. We'll pop a link up here. So if anybody wants to donate to that nonprofit, most of you already know that it's a nonprofit that provides family members at no cost licensed private investigators to help search for their missing loved ones. And you can contact them at the website that's going to be popped up right there. If you have anybody who needs this service, or if you want to donate, or both, feel free. But my big point is that we want to always stand behind people who take these tragic occurrences, things that sometimes will break a family. Lots of times, right? We hear this. Families don't even talk about these things. It happened. They mourned, they grieved, they accepted it, and they just don't bring it up anymore. And that's not the case with the Murrays and with Bruce Maitland. Brianna disappeared coming up on 21
21.
years, coming up in March 19th.
Yeah.
And yeah, right, like a month or so after Maura disappeared, and within a hour and 20 minutes drive from where she disappeared. And instead of becoming a recluse and not wanting to deal with it, Bruce started this nonprofit, in her name, and wants to help
Yeah.
other families. So that's my long-winded way of saying we appreciate all of the courage it takes for families to step up and do that. Like the Bish family as well is another one to mention.
Right. And Private Investigations for the Missing, the nonprofit that Bruce Maitland founded that we're on the board of, they are investigating the Maura Murray disappearance. So that is one of the cases that you can actually donate to help fund. And the work that or the donations will go directly to that case to help investigate. And we know that there are some very skilled private investigators working on that case with the Murray family. So we've kind of taken a step back from talking about the case much, except for these live streams, which, to be honest, it's super fun getting these questions, about the case again. Um, but yeah, we don't produce really any content on it because of our nonprofit is working on it, and that can get a little. You don't want to cross those streams. This was something that we sort of agreed with in the nonprofit years ago. Like if we've got a case that is being worked on by a private investigator, we are not to produce episodes on that because that could cause problems or change the investigation. Unless the private investigator wants to talk about it, because that will help the investigation. So sometimes we get interviews like that,
Mhm.
and we'll do those, of course. But
Yeah, and huge. Real and Ross are saying the Missing Maura Murray, the Missing Maura Murray podcasts are fantastic.
thank
And
you.
Real says, sorry guys, I'll watch the newer stuff. Yeah, watch the newer stuff. So we Missing Maura Murray still exists as a podcast. It's on its own
Yep.
feed, but we took the missing concept and applied it to a number of missing people because there's Maura Murray and that has to stand on its own. And we have to use the platform to broadcast the stories of other missing persons. So Missing Maura Murray and Missing are, both trying to achieve the same objective. And we appreciate you all listening to all of them.
Absolutely, yes. And those episodes of Missing Maura Murray, they are still available in the Missing podcast feed or on the YouTube. You just got to scroll back. It's like the first 150 or so episodes. Also, the Missing Brianna Maitland series is deep in this podcast feed as well. But that also has its own feed. So you can search, not on YouTube, but if you search on Spotify or Apple, you can search Missing Brianna Maitland or Missing Maura Murray, and you'll find a podcast feed specifically about those cases. All right, Lance.
Oh my goodness,
I
we've
think we
gone
should-
on and on. We
yeah,
have 15
we
minutes
should-
before we have the pleasure of speaking with Erica.
Yes, Erica Engelhopt about her book Go to Hell. Can't wait to talk with her about that. But thank you so much for joining us here today on this live show. This was a lot of fun. I think we should do this like I think Friday seems to be a good day too.
Friday's a good day to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like we get more engagement on Fridays. So I think we will do our best to make this a weekly project where we're doing live YouTube shows on Friday on Missing. So look out for that soon. And thanks for following our journey. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for contributing to the conversation as well.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We will see you soon.
Have a good weekend.
Cool. Cut.